I Like Me Better by LeilahMoon, read by LMX Mabella. Chapter 2. Hagrid gestured with one dustbin-sized hand towards some small boats which were slowly creeping towards the shore and called, "No more than 4 in a boat!" Excitedly, Hermione stepped toward one of the vessels, glancing briefly behind her to check Draco was still following. As she carefully placed one foot into its hull, she noticed 2 boys already seated turn their heads towards her. "Hello," she said, having now taken her seat and waiting for Draco to sit opposite her. "Hi," the wild-haired boy with round glasses replied with a smile. "I'm Harry. This is Ron," nodding his head towards the skinny redhead. Hermione's eyes widened, but it was Draco who responded. "The rumors are true, then. They've all been saying that Harry Potter was on the train. So it's you, is it?" "Yes," said Harry hesitantly. "This is Hermione. My name's Malfoy. Draco Malfoy." Ron gave a slight cough, which might have been hiding a snigger. Draco looked at him. "Think my name's funny, do you? No need to ask who you are. My father told me all the Weasleys have red hair, freckles, and more children than they can afford." He turned back to Harry. "You'll soon find out. Some wizarding families are much better than others, Potter. You don't want to go making friends with the wrong sort. I can help you there." He held out his hand to shake Harry's, but Harry didn't take it. "I think I can tell who the wrong sort are for myself, thanks," he said coolly. Draco didn't go red, but a pink tinge appeared on his pale cheeks. He opened his mouth to retort, but Hermione got in there first. "Come on, let's enjoy the journey, shall we? We'll only get this first experience once." She smiled placatingly, and to her surprise, the boys all gave a slight nod, albeit turning to stubbornly stare in different directions. Eventually, the silent boat knocked against the grass mound leading up to Hogwarts. Hermione made a swift exit and began walking towards the castle entrance. She wasn't entirely sure what had just happened between the 3 boys, but she was disheartened at the bobs they had made. Draco had seemed kind and thoughtful whilst on the train, and she was beginning to worry that this school would be just like any other. Hermione, wait!" A voice heaved breathlessly from a few feet behind. She paused. "Why did you just run off like that?" Draco asked as he caught up with her. "I didn't like how you were all talking to each other. It didn't seem very nice." He looked at her perplexedly. "What do you mean? It's the truth. Some wizarding families are better than others. I imagine you are the same as mine, seeing how well we've gotten on." "The same as yours?" Hermione queried. Draco frowned, his look of confidence fading. "Pure blood?" She shook her head. "Oh," was all he said. As they reached the ground oak doors, Draco briefly caught Hermione's eyes. "Good luck with the sorting, then." And with that, they were swept away into the entrance hall. Chapter 3. Crowded together at the front of the great hall, Hermione stood clustered among other similarly anxious-looking peers. She listened as Professor McGonagall began reading from a long roll of parchment. "When I call your name, ye will put on the hat and sit on the stool to be sorted," she said. "Abbot Hannah." A pink-faced girl with blonde pigtails stumbled out of line, put on the hat, which fell right down over her eyes, and sat down. A moment's pause. "Hufflepuff!" shouted the head. The table on the right cheered and clapped as Hannah went to sit down at the Hufflepuff table. "Bones, Susan!" Hermione's mind wandered as the process continued in similar fashion. She gazed around the impressive hall, taking in the floating candles and velvety black star-spattered ceiling. The peaceful moment was torn quickly away, however, as a voice pierced her brain. "Granger, Hermione!" Heart pounding and a swarm of butterflies in her stomach, Hermione took small steps towards the stool. Clutching at the rough sides, she lowered herself into a sitting position and awaited her fate. The sorting hat was placed on her head, and she heard it hum in consideration. "Well, well, what do we have here? Difficult, very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. A clever mind, too. You're incredibly loyal and, oh yes, a thirst to prove yourself. Now that's interesting. So where shall I put you?" The edge of the stool was beginning to bite into Hermione's palm as she thought, "Gryffindor, please, Gryffindor." "Gryffindor, eh?" The small voice said into her ear. "Are you sure? You could be great, you know, and Slytherin could help you on your way to greatness, no doubt about that." No? Well, if you're sure. Better be Gryffindor. Hermione heard that the hat shout the last word into the whole hall, and she felt her heart leap. As the hat was lifted off her head, it felt as though a different weight had also been taken from her shoulders. Her parents would be so proud of her, she thought, as she shakily made her way towards the Gryffindor table. The rest of the sorting passed in a blur, and only a few names stood out to Hermione. Malfoy, Draco, Professor McGonagall called. With a slight swagger, Draco walked towards his stool and gracefully sat down as the hat was placed upon his head. Slytherin! The hat yelled almost instantaneously. Draco smirked at the applause and strolled towards the table dressed in green. No one noticed him glance towards the bushy brown-haired girl with emotion swelling in her eyes. She had looked towards him too, just moments previously. There was sadness in her features, but also a resolution to fight whatever prejudices she had witnessed on that boat. Potter, Harry, and Weasley Ron were now both sat next to Hermione at the Gryffindor table, and she was surprised to find she felt pleased to have them near her. With the sorting finished, Albus Dumbledore had got to his feet. He was beaming at the students, his arms opened wide, as if nothing could have pleased him more than to see them all there. "Welcome," he said. "Welcome to a new year at Hogwarts." Hermione laughed happily with the rest of the Great Hall as the impressive but wizened old man gave the briefest of speeches and gave permission for them all to eat with a wave of his hand. Hermione's mouth fell open. The dishes in front of her were now piled with food. She had never seen so many things she'd like to eat on one table. As the Gryffindors ate their fill, the talk turned to their families. "I'm half and half," said a boy called Seamus Finnegan. "Me dad's a muggle. Mum didn't tell him she was a witch till after they were married. Bit of a nasty shock for him." Hermione considered this, and, reflecting on her earlier conversation with Draco, wondered out loud. "What's a pureblood?" "It's a family who say they have no muggle or muggle-borns in their family," replied another boy Hermione had only just met. Neville, she thought. "So what does it mean if both your parents are muggles?" Neville paused, and Hermione noticed a few Gryffindors glance around awkwardly. "Well, nothing to us." Hermione looked at him curiously. "Okay, so some pureblood families think those who are, muggle-born are—" He paused. "Just tell me," Hermione exclaimed. "Sorry, they just think they're inferior, I guess. Like they aren't meant to have magic." "What?" Hermione gasped. "That's ridiculous." "Yeah, we know that." Neville nodded, and others around him did the same. She was about to say something else when Dumbledore got to his feet again. The whole fell silent. "Just a few more words, now we are fed and watered. I have a few start-of-term notices to give you." Hermione wasn't able to listen to the rest of his reminders and encouragement as her mind spun. For all her prior reading, she hadn't realized that the wizarding world might be just as prejudiced as the one she grew up in. Eventually, she heard his speech and now bedtime, off you trot, and got up to follow the Gryffindor prefect. Hermione caught Draco's eye as they made their way out of the Great Hall towards their respective dormitories. She gave him a small smile. Before she could turn away, she noticed the dark-haired girl from the train whisper something in his ear and laugh. Draco glanced at Hermione, suppressing his own smile. To be continued. Thank you for listening to today's chapter of I Like Me Better by LeilahMoon, read by Ella Mix Mabella. If you would like to stay up to date on upcoming stories and chapters, you can follow me on YouTube, Spotify, AO3, Instagram, or Tumblr.